elapsed time is an amount of time. For example, if you went to baseball practice at 3 o'clock and left baseball at 5 o'clock, the elapsed time would be 2 hours. 2 hours have passed since the start time to the end time. So to find an elapsed time, we need to know the start time and we need to know the end time, and we use those to find the elapsed time. So let's take a look at number 1 here. Isabel and her friends left for the park at 4:40. If they got back at 5:25, how long were they at the park? So the first thing that I need to do is I need to figure out what my start time is and what my end time is. So on my paper, I'll put down an S, an E, and an EL. That stands for the start time, the end time, and the elapsed time. Now, they left for the park at 4:40. So our start time is 4:40. Our end time is 5:25. So that's my information that I'm going to use in order to solve this problem. Now the other thing that I need to do is I need to make a clock. So I'll make a nice neat circle on my paper, and in my nice neat circle I'm going to put my numbers on my clock. Now the best way to do this is to put, I'm going to call them the corners, to put the corners in first. 12, 3, 6, and 9. This allows you to put all the numbers in nice and neat. So then I put the 1 and 2 in, making sure there's a little bit of space between. The 4 and the 5, put them in. 7 and the 8, and the 10 and the 11. So I make a nice neat clock, and now I'm ready to solve my problem, to figure out the elapsed time. So I use my start time and my end time to figure out my elapsed time. First thing I'm going to do on the clock is mark down the start time minutes. Now all my elapsed times are going to be less than an hour, so I'm not concerned about these hours. I'm going to mark down the start time minutes, 40. So I count 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. 40 minutes is on the 8, and I mark that with an S for the start time. Now I mark down my end time minutes. My end time minutes is 25. So I count till I hit 25 and I mark my end time minutes. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. And there is my end time minutes. And the final thing that I do is I count from the start time to the end time, and it has to be clockwise. Clockwise is the way the clock travels. From my start time to my end time, clockwise, to figure out my elapsed time. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. So those humps are my elapsed time, because the elapsed time is an amount of time. I can mark start time on a clock, I can mark end time on a clock. Elapsed time travels the clock. So I have everything marked on the clock, and my elapsed time there is 45 minutes. All right, now this next one is going to be a little bit more difficult. We're going to follow the same exact rules, we're going to do the same exact things, but you'll see it's going to be a little bit more difficult. So, John started reading a book at 2:57. If he finished at, let's say, 3:03, no. I want to change these numbers. Let's say 3:41. So John started reading a book at 2:57. If he finished at 3:41, how long did he spend reading? So the first thing we need to do on our paper, start time, end time, elapsed time. And as we read, he started reading at 2:57. So we write that down as the start time. He finished at 3:41. That is our end time. And we need to use those to figure out our elapsed time. So once we have our information down, we need to make our clock. We make it as nice and neat as we can. The neater we make our clock, the easier time we're going to have to do this. Put my numbers on the corner, 12, 3, 6, and 9. Fill in the numbers in the middle, 4, 5, 7, 8, 10, 11, and now I follow the same procedure I did before. So I don't need my hours because every problem that I'm going to do is going to be within an hour, and I mark down the start time minutes. Now 57, this doesn't land right on one of our large numbers. This lands between them. So to do this, I'm going to count by fives. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. So it's between those two. So I'm going to put a big tally on each of those. This here's 50, this here's 60. And then I'm going to, sorry, that's 55. There's 55, there's 60. Then I'm going to put the tallies in between. There's going to be 4 tallies between the 2 big tallies. 1, 2, 3, 4. So what I have here is 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60. Then I can easily mark 57. 55, 56, 57 is going to be right here on this one, and I mark that with an S for the start time. Now, so I marked my start time. Now I need to mark my end time. Minutes. End time minutes. End time minutes are 41. Same deal. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. And there's 45, so it has to be between these two. It has to be between 40 and 45. Put in my 4 tallies. And I always want to make sure that, I made my tallies right. So I just count 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45. Perfect. So my end time is on 41. And I'll put an end there. Now, I still do the same exact thing here. I still count from the start to the end clockwise, but I'm going to break it up into 3 parts. I'm going to count by ones here. So I go 1, 2, 3. So there's 3 minutes here. I'll write that down. And now once I get to the 12, now I'm going to count by 5 minutes. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. So there was 40 minutes when I counted by 5s, and now I'm back to counting by 1s. So, and then there's 1 minute. So basically I need to add all 3 of those up to figure out my elapsed time. So 1 plus 3 is 4, 40 plus 4 is 44. So my answer for the elapsed time is 44 minutes. So once again, to figure out your elapsed time, you find the start time and the end time. Then on your clock, you mark the start time. Then you mark the end time. And then you travel from the start time to the end time clockwise.